All right. Hello, everyone. How are we doing today?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for joining the session. Hope you liked it, and thanks for the questions. It was nice. It was nice that you were there.
Okay.
Any thoughts on that before we continue?
It's a good idea. A consultant company.
Hmm,
It's a nice approach.
hmm.
Yeah, let's say maybe they are on the right path, no,
Yeah, they are doing, of course,
in the right
Android
direction.
since
Ah,
But
that is.
targeting the small companies is like the way to go.
Mhm,
They don't have a chance with big companies, I think.
yeah,
mhm,
of
As
course.
in like yeah, no. But small companies like Microcement, that's a good target.
mhm. Exactly. Good, but let's go ahead and let's discuss a little bit today's is chapters. I thought actually they were quite good. Let's begin from the back actually. uh, Learn to estimate. This is very hard. This is very hard
Mm.
because I mean, I always, if you ask me, I always put more time or assume more time than what it really takes.
Yeah.
I rather go that way than go the opposite way. So for example, I might be working on a project and I say, okay, this whole project I take, I don't know, 6 months, but then it takes me 2 3 months. Of course, that's a very good news. Instead of me saying, oh, it's gonna take 2 3 months and Edson being 6 months, for example. Of course, that is when I say about the whole project, like the whole entire project. But usually, when you do estimate, you don't estimate the whole project. You estimate, let's say, stories or sprints or things like that. But even then, it's very difficult.
Very
It's
hard.
more like guessing than anything else. Of course, you try to do the best informed approach, yes. Um, but it's pretty much guessing. Of course, the more experience you have and so on, it helps. Now, and then I asked this question specifically to Enrique. If we have to do a feature, we have never done it before, and they ask you, how much will this thing take? What can you do?
Uh,
It's one word, one word. I taught you that word.
you lie. No. Uh,
What did you do for Airtable?
I just tried it. Like I did like a
The name,
what?
a spike.
A spike. Yeah, the spike.
So what?
I was
Let me
confused
explain
because you
this.
said another thing. I don't remember
No,
if it was in class or it was in the book circle. Another name for like the hour that you dedicate to the feature before approaching the feature. You remember?
no, I
Like
don't
a
remember.
time box. Like a
Ah,
time
time
box.
box. Yeah. Well, like a spike. It's a spike. You okay? Let me explain this to Murat. So Murat, let's say that I ask you right now, and this can be for anything. It doesn't have to really be software, but we're speaking about software. I tell you, hey Murat, how long would it take us to do X? And you say, well, I have never worked with X, so I have no idea.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, look, I have no idea, you say, okay, I'm gonna do a spike. What does that mean? You
Yeah.
dedicate a piece of time. That's that where the time box come into play. You dedicate a piece of time. Let's say a 1 day, 2 hours, 3 hours. It depends on how big the thing is or how. Yeah. And you say, okay, I'm gonna dedicate the morning as an example. And what I'm gonna do in that time box, that morning as an example, is I am going to use that tool that I'm supposed to implement, and I'm just gonna write ugly code. I'm just going to try my best to get my hands dirty to see what is involved with this tool that I have never used, because since I have never used it, I don't know how easy it is. I don't know how difficult it is. I don't know what challenges I can expect. I don't know anything. So I'm gonna do a little spike. I'm gonna do a little time box in which I'm gonna get my hands dirty. I'm gonna try to make this work. It's not that you're gonna implement the feature. It's not that you're gonna be writing beautiful code. You're just going to get yourself familiar. And by the end of that spike, you come back and you say, okay, my friends, this thing is going to take approximately 2 days, 3 days, based on what I have experienced. It's going to be about that. Or look, this is going to be significantly more complicated because not only we need to change this stuff, but we need to change all this other stuff as well. So
Yeah.
the point is, it's not to implement, the spike is not to implement anything. It's not to, it's more like a write some code that by the end of that spike, you will probably be deleting. Okay. The whole purpose is about knowledge. How much knowledge does this, gain the knowledge to know how approximately how difficult is this thing. And sometimes you realize, oh, this took me 20 minutes. This was quite easy. It was not as hard. Sometimes you're, oh shit, I didn't think about all this stuff. Oh, forget it. I'm not even going to start this. You see what I mean? So it depends. And to me, it has happened both ways. I say, okay, let me do a little spike. I'm gonna dedicate the morning just to write the ugliest code I can, but the quickest code I can to see how difficult this thing is. And sometimes I realize that my playlist hasn't even finished and I'm already done with the story to some extent.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm done with the playlist, if you will, and I realize, okay, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be significantly difficult. So it happens because what I want you to remember, as time goes by, like as time passes, you learn more, you're more involved in the project. And as a result of that, you learn more about the project. So that is why sometimes it is best to make certain decisions later if they don't have to be done now, because later you're in a much better position to determine what's best. So let me give you an example. And this is a conversation I had because, as you probably know, Enrique is doing an internship at the moment. And we were speaking about the Airtable and the translation, like based on the phone. You remember the feature that you suggested? Um, I recently was in I'm developing a program at the moment, and I said, okay, this feature would be nice to have, but do I really need it now? I asked myself, I said, okay, what is involved in this feature? I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it's code that is going to be there. And I said, no, 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 I'm not going to do this mistake. I am not going to write code just because it's easy to write. I'm going to write code because it's needed. Because, for example, I'm going to put it there, I'm going to give it to the client, and I'm going to wait. If they do not have any problem, then perfect. My assumption was correct. The feature was indeed not needed, and I have saved time. I have saved code that later has to be to maintain. If you launch it and the client comes back and tells you, hey, look, the feature is good, but we realize that we need to make some adjustments, then we have a motivation to write that code. Yeah. So that was the motivation, Enrique, because it's not that it was a bad idea. No, it's more that we're trying to add features that have not really been requested, or trying to solve problems that have not even been not addressed, but proposed. Exactly. So yes, don't get me wrong. Sometimes, and it's a balance. Nothing is black and white. Nothing is always and always. That's why you might say, Humberto, but sometimes you say that you need to do it this way, and sometimes because nothing is written in stone. Everything depends on the scenario, and there are certain scenarios in which the client will tell you, like, look, this is. Sorry, the client might not tell you anything, but you're writing the code and you realize, wait a minute, this is going to be a problem. She hasn't brought this up, but this is going to be a problem. So I'm going to address it now. And there are other cases that you realize, okay, this could be a problem, but given the context, I don't believe it's going to be a problem. So what came to my mind? I said, okay, wait a minute. Who are going the motivation, Enrique? I said, okay, wait a minute. Who's the people that are going to be using this app? The people who are going to be using this app are probably going to be Swedish people. Why? Because her clients work in Sweden. For whom? For Swedish companies. So these people have to speak Swedish. Also, here's I have an extra knowledge. I know her personally, so I know the type of people she works with. So I said, they are not gonna need this English stuff. I mean, that's a nice feature. It's nice to be able to say, hey, it's available in both. But at the same time, it means that we're forcing a situation in which she has to translate both in Swedish and in English. And maybe she doesn't want that. She realized, okay, this is a pain. This is too much problem. So that is why. But now you might say, Humberto, but why did we translate the app to both English and Swedish? Because the app is available in English and Swedish. There's a big difference. Number one, it's significantly easier to do. And number two, we do not bother the client in that process. You see? So it's different scenarios. But anyways, we deviated a little bit the conversation. But the point is, estimating is difficult. it I don't want to say that maybe you do get better as time goes by, but at the end of the day, you're equally guessing.
Yeah.
Regardless, you're
You
guessing.
get better at guessing, but it's still guessing because you
Exactly.
don't know what problems you will might get ahead. That's why I always like overshoot it as well. Like
Mm.
if I promise a feature, I will be like, give me a week. Because then if I ask for a week and then I have it done in 3 days and I say to the client, hey, it's done.
It's done. Yeah.
They're
And
happy
and
because
all,
less money, less. So yeah.
and also that's why it's important also to um and of course the more you work on the code and the more you communicate with the client, you're going to understand the problem better. If you understand the problem better, you say, okay, this is not one problem, you're talking about 6 problems here. Let's break this up into parts and let's focus on one problem at a time. So this problem, we're going to do it in about 1 week, as an example. So I am a big fan of 1 week stuff, like 1 week. But to do that, I cannot say I'm going to give you the whole app in 1 week. I'm going to say, look, for this week, we're going to do one thing and one thing only. Because at least that's how I work. I cannot focus, my head cannot focus on too many things. I have friends who do it all the time. Like they can have so many things in their head. I can't. I just don't work like that. I have to focus on one thing, or everything else is on pause. I finish that, I pick a new stuff, and I do one thing at a time. And to me, that is how I am efficient because I'm not focused on so many stuff simultaneously. But anyways, at the end of the day, yeah, we the more you program, the more you're going to be familiar. So for example, if they tell me, okay, we need to create this list that comes from a backend, since it's something that I do so often, I already know, okay, this is going to take approximately this amount of time because I have already done it. You see? But if tomorrow they say you need to use this totally new library, I said, okay, I'll get back to you. I have no idea how long this will take. So yeah.
This is what happened exactly. I just come to think about the police app. If I can have that swipe refresh widget,
Ah, yes.
and then when I did search it, everything is easy. But it turned out I have to add the library, and I try like to find the library, and there is different library, different version. And I was thinking it's gonna take me like maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but now I think no, it's gonna maybe take me the whole day
A
just to
bit
search
more.
and find the right one, and
Yeah,
how to
exactly.
implement it, and not to
Exactly.
break anything here. That's we will
And
see how it's gonna work.
and that is the benefit of, well, right now you're in the education, so you already have like projects to work on. But let's say you are beyond the education. That's why it's so important to work on hobby projects so that you can become familiar with different libraries, different stuff, so that, I mean, not for the purpose of creating something and making money, but you already have that knowledge. So whenever it comes in handy, you say, hey, I have already done this. Let me look for my project and let me see. I know already what to expect. You see? And that's why it's so important. And believe it or not, I do it all the time. Usually all of the things that I do revolve around tools for the students. Yeah, so I do try to learn new stuff, but I always say, how can I implement or use this stuff for a tool for my students, this stuff for my students? You see what I mean? And that is how I stay up to date on the loop and feel that the tools also have an impact on the students. And many of them I have started writing and I said, no, forget it, this is trash, and you discard it. Yeah. So yes. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on this concept?
It's, it's, it's
No.
for everything. I've been
Mm.
dealing with that stuff forever. It's like when I was working fixing phones. How long it will take? It's always like that. Quite quick questions. When I was working in the restaurant, oh, how long it will take? It's like
And I
it's not
remember
easy. It's not easy. It's for everything, and it
Exactly.
works for everything. It's something that you need to develop,
Mm, mm,
learn, but never, 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 never undershoot it. Always
mm,
overshoot it.
mm,
Undershooting it gets you more problems, gets the client or your boss angry because you failed. It's like he says, like one thing is the prognose, one thing is the commitment, and one thing is the requirements.
mm,
So when he say, "Oh, I need this done in a week," and I'm like, let me get back to you on that, because if you
mm.
say yes,
You
then
could be in trouble. You
you
can
just
get in
committed
trouble.
it. When you say
Yeah.
yes, you committed it. But if you
Mm,
say, let me get back to you on that, I'm gonna start trying it and to see if I see any problems, immediate problems, and then I tell you. Because no, that's that's a bad
exactly.
communication strategy. And managers love to do that. Like, oh, I need this done in a week, and I'm like, are you doing it? No, okay, then you don't get to tell me how long it will take. You tell me how long you will like it to have it, but I will tell you how long it will take because I'm the one doing it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Exactly,
a
like
hierarchy.
yeah, like the conference we had for a few, well, for 1 hour ago for Studio Dev. So they want to implement Swish and other payment. I don't know how much is gonna take that feature because they don't tell us, okay, this one is gonna be done in this way. So it's something like new for them. So it's gonna be really like
A
I don't
lot
know,
of
maybe it's gonna go
a
fast.
lot of reading documentation.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah, is there are lots of, and that's what I learned from you, Enrique, because exactly when you told me, okay, welcome to developing, because now I understand what library is and what is useful for. Because not just sit and big, because sometimes in some points in the app, maybe you need to implement a feature, but then you really have to sit and read the library and how it's work and what version it should work properly for the application and other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, sometimes we
Yeah.
think that development is no development. It takes time. It takes time
Yeah,
to write
exactly.
code,
Yeah.
and people think like, oh, I'm gonna get this done quickly and go my day. That is not how it works. You have to, and I tell it to students like, look, they say, hey, Humberto, I spent an entire day working on this problem. I'm like, you should have spent two. I mean, they tell me as if that's a problem. That's not a problem. I mean, that is the day to day. I'll be working on one file for an entire week because the thing doesn't work. You see? So it is like that. It's about reading, it's about but of course when you have hundreds of things and you think that the development is I don't know, it doesn't work. Anyways, let's move on. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Learn foreign languages. I think that the good thing about everyone, almost everyone in the class, I would say, not everyone in the class, absolutely everyone,
It's bilingual at least.
exactly at the very least speaks two languages. Many speak three, I believe. Murad, probably you speak three because you speak Arabic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moroccan and Arabic.
Okay, so look
So
at
that's
that.
four.
So, but everyone in the class has to speak two languages. I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah.
Um, the point is, I mean, he speaks about many things, but I want to highlight two things, and hopefully you have gotten this from the education. Number one, it is important to be precise in the way you express yourself to avoid misunderstandings. And even then, misunderstandings can arise, but you can try to diminish the possibility of that by trying to be precise. How can you be precise? One way that I'm trying to teach you, being precise in the words that you use. For example, all of this vocabulary in the context of programming, the assignment operator, for example, vocabulary like scope, equality operator, all those vocabulary, if you use them appropriately, will help you transmit your message better when you're doing mob programming, when you're working in teams, when you're expressing a problem, when you are expressing a solution. Yeah, communication is key. Communication is key. He says that when you speak many languages, you have like different ways of thinking, and as a result, you can express yourself. And I agree with all of that. But if I had to summarize this, it's about being able to express yourself appropriately. And part of this, it's also, for example, you are experiencing that right now, Enrique. How much IT does Heda have?
Not much.
Zero. I mean, that's not her domain, and there's no reason for her to have it. The same way for you. I mean, how much do you know about all this painting stuff? Maybe now a little bit more, given that you have been involved. The same for her. Maybe now she knows a little bit more about. Hey, I didn't know that these things could even be possible. Yeah, but in the beginning, you had your domain, she had her domain. Yeah, the point is that now you came together, and you need to express yourself. Yeah, and that is where it is important to do two things. One, listening. It is important to listen to the other person, to understand the problem of the other person, which is difficult because sometimes people do not express themselves appropriately,
Yeah.
and sometimes they express a solution, but what they really want to do is they're trying to express a problem, but they're telling you what they think is the solution, which is also a problem. When let's say that it's backwards, you are looking for someone to give you a service. We always want to feel that we know. We never want to feel that we are stupid, okay? So we go there with the problem, but we start asking for, we start saying, I want you to do this for me. But how do you know that that is what you need? The other person is the expert. So instead, present a problem and wait for the answer. Yes, of course, it's good to have already have done your research. Of course, it's good to have in mind what could be some possible solutions, but do not, and now we're deviating a little bit here again, but it's good conversation. Do not go there telling them I want you to do this unless you're already 100% sure. Instead, go there, present the problem, and wait to see what they say. Wait to see if the solution they propose matches the solution you had in mind. You see? I always, for example, let's say what could be a good example that recently happened to me? Um, okay, okay. I recently needed some stuff for my business, okay? And I already did my research because I'm like that. I'm very geeky. I started looking for my own problems and or solutions, and I said, okay, I think I know what I need. But then I said, okay, I need to go to this company, and I said, okay, look, instead of me saying I want you to offer me this, and that, I didn't do that. I said, hey, I have this problem, and I have no idea how to solve it. BS. I already knew my stuff. But I wanted to see their answer. I wanted to see if their answer matched mine. If it did, okay, perfect. If it did not, then I will be in much better position to ask questions. You see what I mean? So the point I'm trying to transmit, communication is important, regardless of what side you are, either the one who is solving a problem or the one who is asking for a problem to be solved. But listening is important. Listening is important,
Yeah.
and keep that in mind because it's very easy to speak, but listening is important.
Yeah. And do you work on projects for some companies alongside
Not
educating
at
or
the
no?
moment. Not at the
No.
moment because I dedicate all my time for
Or-
the teaching part and developing software for you guys. So all of
Okay.
the time that I do is for the students and the ecosystem and all this stuff.
And import, yeah, no, yeah, not Puerto Rico, Panama. You're coming from
Mm.
Panama, but you speak English as second language or as a first language?
Second, I mean, the first language is Spanish.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Mm, mm.
Because your English is so efficient, and I don't know, is
Well, I think it's two reasons.
yeah,
One, to be fair, I don't know if you know, but I lived in the U.S. for
yeah,
5 years, so I think that is one. And the other one, I, I think I don't know. I just think I like to read a lot, and I read in English. And when I say
okay,
read, I don't mean like read documentation. I mean like read outside programming stuff. And I believe like when you read, that helps. It's
okay,
my guess. I don't know.
okay.
Um, but one thing I wanted to say, sorry, one thing I wanted to say regarding this concept of communication, it is difficult. Of course, it's difficult to communicate, but listening is very important. And by the way, maybe you don't notice, but who do you think are my clients?
We.
Exactly. So it is very important for me to not only listen to your concerns, but also observe your concerns. What do I mean? Because sometimes students do not express that concern in a verbal manner, but they might express it in other ways. Like, for example, if I see that 10 out of 20 students book a help session because they are all having the same problem, what do you think is the message? They have not explicitly told me, Humberto, there's a problem here. But the fact that 10 out of 15 students book a help session for the same problem tells me, Humberto, there's a big problem here. People are not understanding this thing. So that is what I mean. It is important to listen, to observe your customer. In this case, you guys are my customer. So everything that I do is okay. How can I adjust? How can I improve? And you will be surprised of how the first generation, the first generation of students. Oh my God, poor them. But anyways, things have changed, and you guys did not have access to stuff that the new generation has, and the new generation or the current generation would not have access to some stuff that the new one that coming in August is going to have. And it's like that, you know. Stalking. Enrique, how has it felt with you in this internship in the sense of you need to be constantly speaking to the client? So how has it been?
It's been good. It's been good.
Mhm.
There's been some mishaps, not in communication, but in I will say in communication, yes. But that's why I try to have at least one weekly meeting with the client.
Mm.
Even if I don't have much to show, I will try to have something to show,
Mm.
so she's happy, and also to get automatic feedback, because if I keep going, and then she has a surprise, oh no, this is not supposed
What
to
I
be like
wanted.
this,
Mm.
and then I have to go back and rewrite code, like it happens with the database.
Ah.
There was a bit of a miscommunication there, but yeah, it's that. The other kind of a problem is that my Swedish is not that good. Her English is not that good, so there's a bit of a language barrier as well. But I think so far it's been good.
Mm.
Hopefully she thinks the same.
Mm.
I'm trying to be as thorough as possible. Every little thing I show her or send her a screenshot like, hey, been working on this. What do you think?
Mm.
Hey,
Yeah,
look
it's
at this. Hey,
that
look
is
at
very
this.
important. I mean, we surprises software development is not the place for having surprises. You don't want to surprise the client with anything. You want to be constantly keeping the client on the loop, constantly showing progress, constantly showing progress, as small as it is, so something valuable, so that you can adjust, because it's way easier to adjust when the thing is still growing than if you have already created a bunch of code and then you have to rewrite half of it. Again, that's a big problem that we developers have. We love to code, we love the technology, we love all of that, so we focus too much of the code. But at the end of the day, why are we writing code? We're writing code because we want to solve a problem. Who cares about your code if it doesn't solve the problem? You see, that is the what you need to remember when you're working in business. I'm not here to be writing beautiful code. I'm here to solve the problem of the students. If my code doesn't solve that problem, then my software is a piece of you know what. You see? So technologically speaking, it might be beautiful, but if it confuses the student more than anything else, then I have failed. You see what I mean? So there has to be a balance. You do need to, of course, have good code quality, because to make it easy to maintain, easy to understand. Don't get me wrong, that's important, but it better solve a problem. If it doesn't solve the problem, who cares about how technically and complex your code is? No one cares. The customer doesn't care, probably only you. Okay, so that is something we need to, because when we are studying IT, when I was in the university, no one really focused, or we didn't really have classes about what does it mean about writing software in the context of a business. Yeah, in the context of we're writing software to solve a problem. We're not writing software just for writing software, unless you have a hobby project. Don't get me wrong, if you have a hobby project, of course, who cares if it's useful or not? It was for learning. Yeah, but we are here, or my goal here is to prepare you for the industry, and you need to remember that every single line of code you write has to be addressed towards either providing value to the customer, or making your code in such a way that it's easy to understand and maintain, so that whenever we need to add value, it's easy to do it. Because at that same time, you might say, okay, Humberto, so should I just write whatever to have it quick? Well, yes, the problem, or no, because then if the client asks for a new stuff, and because you have a mess of a code, it takes 6 months just because of the mess of code, then there's a problem. I mean, it's a balance. It's a balance. You cannot only focus on writing the quickest code without taking into account the quality, but you cannot just focus only on the quality and forget about the client. It has to be a balance in which you have well-written code that is always offering value. And if it doesn't offer value, do not even write it. Do not even write it. You have no idea how many times I have written code and I say, oh yeah, this would be really nice. But at the end, no one uses it. But I still need to maintain that code. You see, I still need to maintain it, but no one uses it. And yeah, eventually, as you grow older, or in your careers, I would should say, you realize that you want to write the least amount of code possible. You want to achieve what you want with the least amount of code possible, with the least amount of features possible. And that is important. I want all of you to take that in mind. I want you to be very good programmers, But more than that, I want you to remember that every line of code that you write has to be targeted towards offering value to the customer in this case, and of course, written in such a way that keeps good code quality. But don't just write code because it's fun, or just don't write code because why not? Those are not reasons for writing a feature or a code, because we still need to maintain it and so on and so forth. Good. Any thoughts on today? It's time is up now, but any thoughts on this? I thought it was quite nice.
Yeah.
The conversations at least were quite nice. Any thoughts?
The know your next commit is also quite a
Oh
nice chapter.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was a
yeah,
good
that
one.
one.
That's true. That's true.
He
I
gave
highlighted.
three examples, and the part of where you fragment your.
Yeah,
It
Yeah.
happened to me at the beginning of my internship that I was all over the place doing all
You-
over stuff.
When I was reading this, I remembered of you and what I told you about massive
PRs.
commits. Remember?
Yeah.
And breaking them up. Yeah. Maybe we can take this next week because I thought it was.
Yeah.
We can quickly go over it next week.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for today, and I will then see you next week.
Got it. Have a nice
Oh.
one. Bye
Hey,
bye.
Have a
everyone.
nice.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.